Great. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kari Bingen. I'm the director of the Aerospace Security Project here at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. On behalf of CSIS and the United States Naval Institute, it's my pleasure to welcome you this morning to the Maritime Security Dialogue on the future of naval aviation with Vice Admiral Dan Cheever, Commander of Naval Air Forces and Commander of Naval Air Force U.S. Pacific Fleet. This series brings together senior defense leaders to share their insights on the challenges facing our maritime forces and how we're addressing them. We are grateful to HII for making these conversations possible and for enabling us to make them accessible to practitioners, private sector partners, and students alike. So thank you to Paul Tennant and the HII team for your continued support. Vice Admiral Cheever is in a consequential leadership role at a critical time. As the Navy's air boss, he leads naval aviation forces that must be combat ready every single day. From defending Israel against Iranian missile and drone strikes from the Eastern Mediterranean to safeguarding vessels from Houthi strikes in the Red Sea to deterring China and protecting the United States homeland. He's leading the changes necessary to prepare for highly contested environments, adopt new technologies, and integrate manned and unmanned operations. Without going into each of his assignments, his bio is very long, I would observe that in his over 3 decades of service to our nation, the Admiral has commanded at every level of Navy aviation. His assignments have ranged from squadron and carrier air wing command to leading a carrier strike group. He was the battle director at the Combined Air and Space Operations Center in U.S. Central Command at the peak of U.S. forces in Afghanistan. His operational tours positioned him well to inform the development of strategy and plans at NORAD and NORTHCOM, where he then became Chief of Staff. He also served as commander of the Naval Aviation Warfighting Development Center, home of Top Gun, where he helped shape the next generation of naval aviators. So, Admiral, thank you very much for joining us today. And now to lead this discussion, I will hand it over to Rear Admiral Ray Spicer, Chief Executive Officer and publisher of the U.S. Naval Institute. Over to you, Ray. Thank you.
Thanks, Kari, and thanks to CSIS for a great partnership. Thanks to HII for being great sponsors of this event and this series that we conduct. And special thanks to Admiral Cheever for joining us today. Appreciate you making the time for us. There's a big crowd because you see folks that are here in person, but you also have a bunch of folks that are tuning in virtually. So what that means for us is I think we're going to get lots of questions. So I'm going to try to power through what I have for you so we can get to all the audience questions. So I think you know, but if you're here in person, use the QR code to submit your questions. You can start doing that now. I already see some coming in. And then if you're online, go ahead and use the website to submit your questions. So they will all magically appear on this iPad I have, and then I'll go through and fire away for Admiral Cheever. So Admiral, I thought what we do is start with kind of current ops, current readiness, and then move to the future of naval aviation, which I know you want to talk about, but I also want to talk about the current state of play. I know several years back, there was big focus on readiness and achieving a certain level, and I think TAC Air hit it out of the park, and the magic number, as I remember, was 80%, and I think one of your predecessors, Chip Miller, was there for getting the TAC Air community up on step, and I think they led the way for all the communities. So with that as lead-in, can you talk about where we stand today on readiness, what some of the drivers are, and what some of the challenges are that you wrestle with every day?
Yeah, so I think the journey for readiness is we're sustaining the readiness increases that we enjoyed through Bullett's leadership, to Kenny Whitesell's leadership, and then now, and it's really pretty exciting because we're at the highest state of readiness we've had in at least 10 to 15 years back. And so both carriers and the air wings that support with the carriers and our expeditionary forces are all at that heightened readiness. Which is good, and then the warfighting that allows, and then the warfighters that supports to let them do their job is pretty exciting. The challenges are in supply chain management, in the sustainment pieces of it, and there are small pockets of that here and there, but we as Naval Aviation have a playbook. My partners at Nav Air, which is our system command, at NavSup, WSS, that does all of our supply chain management and those kind of things. We have a good playbook. When there is a challenge, we get after it, and we have performed a plan that re-energizes and gets us back to where we should be for readiness. And that's across the board. And it's pretty exciting to be part of that. It's a lot of hard work, but it is totally worth it. And the return on investment from all of that parts supply is in the readiness of the force. And it's at an all-time high. You can look at the globe right now with the carriers where they all are to see that we are ready and out there.
Yeah, that's great. I know the F-35 is still relatively new to the fleet. Mm-hmm. Had some initial readiness challenges, from the get-go. Can you talk a little bit about where the F-35 is today with regard to readiness and sustainment as it gets introduced to the fleet?
Thanks, Ray. First and foremost, the F-35 is a game changer, difference maker in the fleet. My predecessors, Bullet here and the rest, decided that a fourth, fifth, and sixth generation mix on the aircraft carrier and manned-unmanned teaming is the right blend. We're right now in the fourth, fifth generation piece of that, and that fourth, fifth generation mix is absolutely the right mix. The F-18 carries some serious weapons that you've seen, and the F-35 brings that capability, and the two of them together, fighting with our E-18G Growler and E-2D, which is in high demand, both those assets, is the right mix and blend. There are a few challenges along the way in F-35 in the supply chain management and some of those kind of things, but all that's going through the playbook to get that right, to make it good to go. Deploying, not a big problem. So we're able to deploy the force, and we're just working on a little bit of the issues there, but it is a serious platform.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about continuing to grow the F-35 fleet and then get into 6th gen in the future with the 4th, 5th, 6th gen. And as you sundown the 4th generation, the 6th generation will come up. And the 6th generation actually replaces the F-18s and the Growlers. So it's a combination thing. Very excited for the future of that.
Yeah, good. So from a readiness standpoint, the F-35 sounds like it's doing great on deployment, maybe some sustainment issues that you're working through. What kind of feedback are you getting from the pilots and operators of that aircraft that are out there on deployment?
Excited. The warfighters are really good. I'm not sure, this younger generation learns really fast, and they're really good at soaking in all the information. To understand how much information that aircraft can soak in, and how the young folks that fly it can take all that information, make sense out of it, and then do the right thing in the air. It's truly amazing. But that is a capability and capacity beyond most folks' imagination. Mm-hmm. It's very exciting.
When I think readiness, the other thing that kind of comes to mind, I'm sure you'll get a question on, so I'll just head it off right now, is the CMV-22 Osprey, and had some gearbox issues at one point. Are we getting past that? I know some are flying, some aren't, but
absolutely. Actually, we've recovered readiness there in the CMV-22. We've actually recovered readiness in the JSF as well. And I think we're on a great path there. There's a comprehensive review, a lot of things to come, but we're on a great journey, safely flying that platform and effectively flying that platform, supporting our aircraft carriers. Not a lot of other things in the world, actually none that I can think of, that can deliver things out to the carrier very far safely, and then also return things from the carrier, including ambulatory patients. It can take 14 ambulatory patients well over 1,000 miles off the carrier, and that just means more warfighters that, back into the fight.
Yep.
So if you look at the future of that, absolutely the right platform, great readiness right now, and the safety pieces of it, really excited. And one thing I would like to mention is the way the Air Force, the Navy, and the Marine Corps worked together as the tri-service for V-22 was really well done, really open and together. And then going forward, we're also together. And NavAir sort of led that effort to get us where we need to be today. So really excited where we're going there.
That's good. Anything else you want to mention on readiness, just in general, that because I'm going to move on to ops.
Yeah, I think when I think readiness, I really go right to the young folks, my sailors that work on the aircraft and the air crew that fly them. And I think readiness starts there with those young folks and how we train them. And we've had this conversation a little bit in the back, but how we train them, young folks learn way faster, I think, in a different manner than we did. We learn sort of lecture style, PowerPoint presentation, those kind of things. They learn really quick now. And they probably learn more before 7:30 than most people learn all day. Hopefully the right things. And so we're changing all our training for those young folks to be much quicker, much more effective, with the outcome of a better maintainer, better air crew that understand what they're learning. And I found that we had about 49 trainings that we owned. We took all of the half-hour to 45-minute trainings and got them down to about 60 seconds each to learn the effective things they need to learn. And then they just churn and learn through them. And then we do more repetition than long sessions. And so how they learn and how we teach them. But world-class maintainers, how to use a torque wrench, how to do fuel samples, all of those kind of things come into it. And so when I think readiness, I think platforms and the sustainment pieces, but I also think of the people and treating those people right. And by treating them right, what I mean is, I don't mean don't make them do hard work. They have to wear a good uniform, come to work, and work hard. But when they're there, I want to value their time, have them be world-class trained and world-class maintaining and operating, and then when they're done, give them some work-life balance back.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to free all the distractions, which is exciting. And I think this administration has really taken us through something where we can remove a lot of the distractions and get right to the war fighting and the war fighters and move out on that. Yeah. So pretty excited about that journey.
Great concept. Don't waste their time.
Right. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just want to talk, and I know you can't say much, but our Navy has done such a fantastic job operationally in the last couple of years. And I'm thinking about two conflicts in general where we see relatively low cost, innovative technology being used. It kind of changes the way nations wage war. So you think about what has gone on in the Red Sea, what's going on in Ukraine. And it's primarily use of UAVs and other technologies, but relatively inexpensive technology. Can you talk a little bit, to the extent that you can, about how Naval Aviation responded to those new threats and how we were so successful in the Red Sea?
Yeah, I think that's a good microcosm for, can you operate in the weapons engagement envelopes? Absolutely. We know how to defeat threats. We know how to work systems. And the big learning that came out of that is the speed with which we need to learn and adjust, and the speed of data flow and some of those pieces of it. And it was really good. I will highlight the warfighters. You know, again, I go back to those young folks making the right decision at the right time, rules of engagement, doing the absolute right thing, and the trust that their leadership have in them and their trust that they have in leadership to give them the tools and the sets and the reps to do the right thing. I think it highlights our training and the training track we put everybody through before they deploy. We don't train everybody to the exact thing they're going to be seeing all the time, but their ability to adjust and take that training to whatever they see and to think on the fly is one of the best things we have going. You know, I think Americans are taught from birth to be free thinking, to be able to adjust, to be resilient, and to adjust to circumstances, and to take whatever training they have and to adjust on the fly. And I think that's what's made us successful.
Yeah, great. There were, in April and June, Iranian missile, ballistic missile, drone, whatever they could throw at Israel. Hundreds of missiles and drones on the attack on Israel. And I think what we used is our components of what we developed for the European phase adaptive approach, which is a combination of Aegis radars at sea and ashore, the THAAD system, TPY-2 radar system. The E-2D was a big component of that architecture. So I thought you might want to talk a little bit about E2D and its capabilities, and are you seeing combatant commanders looking at E2Ds in kind of high demand operationally?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very effective platform, and that causes the extremely high demand on that platform that can do all the things that you hope they can do. Really honored that our team was able to be part of that and to successfully do what they did. I'm also excited about the Brendan McLean at Surface Forces partnership and sharing lessons learned back and forth. And our Naval Aviation Warfighting Development Center and their Surface and Mine Warfighting Development Center have never been tighter. And all of the warfighting development centers are tight, sharing lessons and making sure that the learning is not just one part of us learning, but all of us learning and sharing that information. So it's, like you said, a lot of this comes together in training it and on the battlefield. Yeah. And it works. Yeah. And I think it's a testament to what we developed over time. I give N26, OpNav, and a lot of our folks a lot of credit for the journey we went down to get E2D where it's supposed to be, E-18G growlers and next-gen jammers. The whole kit is pretty special.
Yeah, I think we some of the lessons learned from that conflict in the Red Sea was the shore establishment and their support for what was happening operationally, like sending tapes back about radar systems and how they operated and getting the answers back almost immediately and making changes to the setup for our radars to work better in that environment. So all that, I think.
The speed of that is the critical part.
Yeah.
The speed of adjusting.
Absolutely.
Because you learn. Anytime you go to war, you learn. Yeah. And you have to learn fast.
Yep. I think that was a big component of our success there, is that how quickly we could adapt. Mm-hmm. Okay, I know you want to talk about the future.
Oh, yeah.
And big in the naval aviation world on the future of naval aviation is this whole concept of unmanned, manned integration. I know you're doing a lot of testing integration on the MQ-25 Stingray. I know we fitted out George H.W. Bush to support that aircraft. Can you talk about where we are? And I know that the strike fighters are eager for that platform to appear so they can relinquish the mission and recovery tanker mission that they took on. Where are we in the integration of that aircraft with the carrier and carrier operations?
So the key to that platform is MQ-25 will fly this year in 2025 and then do the integration on the carrier in 26. Coincidentally, at the same time, JFK will be getting to see about the same time as the MQ-25, so lots of new capability coming out. And like you said, Ray, the freeing up strike fighters to be strike fighters and not have to do a tanking role is the really exciting part of that. It really gives us the capability and capacity beyond what we have currently. And so that's a bump in both capability and capacity. That's pretty cool. Excited to go out there and see that fly for the first time. And then it is also the key that unlocks manned-unmanned teaming on an aircraft carrier. And I'm talking big platforms next to each other, both manned and unmanned, flying, integrating, and doing the whole thing during deployment and then learning. And I think that opens up the future for collaborative combat aircraft, other unmanned assets to come. So I think that's the really exciting part of that journey. We learned a ton from the 10 years we did MQ-8, unmanned teaming on the surface warfare side. Yep. And that learning has helped us with this journey. And it's pretty exciting for the future, because that is the future, right? It's 4th, 5th, 6th generation manned-unmanned teaming. The rest of the kit that comes, the Nimitz is out right now. And the Nimitz of today, with what it's got on the flight deck, ordnance, systems, looks completely different than the Nimitz of, when it started. Yeah. And so that constant innovation and capability and capacity that's needed to keep ahead is the future.
So you touched on sixth generation, so good segue to my next question. So
Segue.
I know the Senate Appropriations Committee approved a $1.4 billion increase in the FY26 Defense Appropriations Bill for the sixth generation fighter for the Navy. I'm sure you have an opinion on that. I'm sure you're happy about that. What do you see as the most critical requirements for the sixth generation fighter for the Navy? And then do you envision that we're going to, you may not know, maybe still too early to tell, but an approach similar to what we did with the F-35, where the Air Force and the Navy and the Marine Corps all have derivatives of that aircraft, or do you see going a totally different direction for the sixth generation fighter for the Navy?
Yeah, so I think for sixth generation, I see a maritime version of the aircraft that starts at the carrier, is made for the carrier, and is a complete carrier version. And then it will be replacing both the Super Hornet and the Growler. So it is a combination of all things, and it's going to be a very exciting aircraft. I'm looking forward to the down select. I'll leave it to the professional acquisition folks and the folks that do that. But I'm looking forward to that because that sixth generation means air superiority in that time frame in the future, which means sea control. And as long as you have air superiority, you have sea control around the globe. And so that sixth generation really ensures that you have that sea control and that manned-unmanned teaming, I think, with collaborative combat aircraft. And so we'll see what the future brings, but I'm sure that fourth, fifth, sixth generation is that mix. And then the unmanned teaming is the thing that gets us there. I have a lot of thoughts about quantum computing, direct energy weapons, the things of the future that'll come.
Yeah.
Because nobody really has a mind's eye to go, this is exactly how the future is going to look in 2040, 50, 60, 70. The one thing's for sure, we're going to have aircraft carriers, and that is your air superiority for sea control in the future for your Navy. And America is a maritime nation, and so that's assured that you need that, especially in peacetime, to deter, which is where we all want to live, right? I started my career, and we were in deterrence, and then Desert Storm happened, and it's been war since. And so we want to get back to that deterrence mission, peacetime, and then your ability to respond in crisis is the other part of that. No better response in crisis than an aircraft carrier. And that's why you see the demand. Some of the first questions are, where are the aircraft carriers? How fast can you get them to the crisis area for response? And it could be a good response for humanitarian reasons, or it could be a deterrence or those kind of things. And then you get to the full-up combat, which everybody likes to talk about, the full-up combat, but there's a lot to the peacetime, the response, and then even the combat. Confident in all those areas.
All right, I'm gonna do something dangerous here. I'm gonna attempt to multitask, but I have a few more questions, but I'm gonna try to weave in some from the audience, so we make sure we get to them. One from Tyler Winningham, Nav Air NOC AD. Question is, what is the Navy doing to address human workload and human limitations / constraints when it comes to manned-unmanned teaming?
Yeah, so I think the answer to that is in Nav Air, in industry, and in some of our guidance to them of, you still have people like me that fly. I flew an F-18 Super Hornet, Block 3, the newest one, on last Monday out in Fallon. Fantastic. But I still have limitations. Some of the younger folks have less limitations than I do. But you've got to make it simple enough and understandable enough to use. Kind of like your iPhone, right? If they make the iPhone so complex that it's hard to use, people would stop using it. They make it simple and easy and intuitive. That's the same thing we need. So when I think collaborative combat aircraft, sixth generation, fifth generation, fourth generation, all of it together, it's got to be simple enough and effective enough to use. And so it's a journey with industry in partnership with Nav Air, and he's at NOC AD, you said? So that's our weapons folks down there at Channel Lake. Very effective, very clever thinkers. And what I want to do is unleash him and his thinking for this so that we get the most clever take on this. When I was at Top Gun, that was sort of my job, was to make sure the tactics were simple enough for me to execute. I think that's why they brought me there, because I was the simplest guy there, the basic. And if I could do it, then the rest of the fleet was going to be able to do it. If I couldn't pull it off, then it was going to be hard for the fleet to incorporate those tactics. So I think that's the journey. That's where we're going. And thanks to, what'd you say his name was?
Tyler.
Tyler. Thank you, Tyler, for what you do down there. Very, very cool place. That's a lot of PhDs, a lot of rocket engineers, folks like that down there that do very clever things. I'd like to unlock and unleash that team to move at speed, because that's one of the teams that can move seriously fast if you just kind of get things out of their way and let them focus and go.
Yeah. I think there's that general tone throughout the Department of the Navy right now. It's like get stuff, make acquisition happen, right? Kind of get out of our own way.
I'm excited because where SecNav is, where SecDef is, where the president is, they are unleashing and moving out of the way a lot of the things that get in the way of speedy acquisition, outcomes that matter. And I think that's the journey we're on right now, is to unlock all that and unleash that. And then you got good old American ingenuity that can move fast, And I go back to the days of SR-71. That was the right team, the right resources, and they got everything out of their way, and they said, here's the outcome we need. And in 3 years, they built that thing. All new tech, engines, flight controls, aircraft, something nobody had ever seen before, and a very effective for exactly what was needed. And I think that's what we're moving back to. Yeah. And that'll be, I think that'll be very effective.
I'm going to go back to my list of questions. We talked a lot about the aircraft, current aircraft, future aircraft, 6th generation, 4th, 5th, unmanned. We haven't talked about the airports. So the airports being the aircraft carriers. Got Gerald R. Ford out there in 6th Fleet AOR today, on their second deployment already. I think the second one to come is John F. Kennedy, but recently announced that maybe there's some delays in delivery. But I think folks are wondering what the impact, if any, would be on retiring some of the Nimitz class as the Ford class come online. So do you have any thoughts or comments about that?
I'll just say we're dedicated in the Navy to maintaining the National Defense Authorization Act of 11 aircraft carriers and 9 air wings. And there's good reason behind that. We understand it. And when the John F. Kennedy delivers, the second in class, we're very excited for that one to come out. The Ford is out there. The glory of the Ford, I landed on it a few months ago. And if you combine our precision landing mode, there's a reason we're not going to the aircraft carrier anymore with our training cadre. We wait until they get to the fleet replacement squadron, and for the first time they go to the carrier. It's because that precision landing mode that NavAir put into the aircraft is incredible. I don't want to say anything about my first 1,100 passes, but this pass on the Ford, I came around the corner, and you remember, you're the air boss, so you can't really, you got to make a good landing right in front of all the folks that are watching. And I clicked the button, and it flew the best pass I've ever seen. Literally, the ball didn't move, and I landed exactly where I wanted to land. Incredible capability. And so the other thing about that, when I landed, the island is back here. That helps the wind over the end of the carrier. So there's less burble, there's less everything back there. A very well-placed island. And then it also frees up the parking, because when you pull out the wire, no longer is the island up here, the island's back there. So the parking coming out of there is quick and easy. It is the quickest, and there's tons of space, nobody in your way. And you go to all these weapons elevators, and you park right under the weapons elevators. And the genius thing about the weapons elevators, they open right there, and then you upload the ordnance. Done. They go back down to the ammo thing, and then off you go. It's quick. The capacity of that thing is a game changer. I don't want to give any secrets, but I will tell you that the entirety of the Ford class carrier is air conditioned. That for us, those of us who've been on a Nimitz class carrier, is a huge leap. Thank you very much. It's quite the capability and capacity of that carrier. There's a lot of other things that go into the Ford that make it a completely different aircraft carrier than the Nimitz, and complete better capability and capacity. And so second deployment, very excited.
Yeah.
The young folks out there right now are doing incredible work. They are, I mean, I got to talk to about 650, I think, junior officers at Tailhook last week, and they give me very direct pointed, here's the things you need to work on, here's our concerns, here's what you need to fix. But my takeaway from that, they were all professional, well educated, and pretty much every one of their points was spot on. Things that I need to work on as the air boss on their behalf. And so I took copious notes, and I'm working on all the things that the junior officers said.
You're giving me awesome segues this morning.
Raj.
Because I was going to talk about people and how you see training going, how you see retention. You know, we've had pretty high up tempo, so that can be good or bad. What did you hear from the JOs on the Tailhook?
So a few concerns that they'd like me to work on, but nothing that's insurmountable. And I think with this administration and the way we're going, they're freeing up a lot of the things that the junior officers are concerned about. And there's, you know, high op tempo, yes, but purposeful.
Yeah.
And the reason we join the military is the mission, the thing that's greater than ourselves for our nation. And when our nation calls on us, regardless if it's 7th Fleet, 5th Fleet, 3rd Fleet, 2nd Fleet, 6th Fleet, you go. And I do find that it's very important to explain the why we're doing this, why this is important. But as soon as you tell them the deterrent value of an aircraft carrier, all the young folks get it, and they love the mission. And so I think there's, we'll see how the retention goes. My theory, my philosophy is treat them right, train them right, don't waste their time, make them expert, make them world class, show them what right looks like, and then get out of their way and let them lead and win. And when you do that, I think you retain the best and brightest, and it's a very exciting place to work. And I don't blame them for kind of assessing the whole way along to figure it out. And then I explained the reason I stayed in as long as I did. My wife being the big part of that, because she allowed me, to do what I did. And we have triplets. And so when you have triplets, you need a very strong spouse to take care of those triplets when you're on deployment and those kind of things. But it worked for us. And, so excited to keep as many of those junior officers and our sailors. Sailors have a lot of decisions to make. But again, that same philosophy of train them, make them expert. Because as soon as you're an expert at something, you really don't want to leave that, And if you're the maintainer that they call on, hey, I need you, you got to fix that jet. There's an intrinsic value behind that you go, okay, it's me. They're calling me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what winning looks like.
What kind of things did the JOs tell you need to work on?
Well, they talked a little bit about bonus and some of those pay issues and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They talked a little bit about the things we need to fix as far as training goes.
Yeah.
And 100% on board with all of that to the max extent possible. And then they gave me insights into some of the localized issues at different bases and places. They talked a little bit about infrastructure. Getting after this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
And excited to work with Scotty Gray at Scenic and some of those folks that are helping us with that.
Yeah.
And doing a great job with helping us with the bases and the places that we need to work on.
Yeah.
So
Great.
pretty exciting.
Lots of industry represented here and online. What would you say to industry about what they could do better to help you achieve your goals?
Yeah, so what I said at Tailhook was, first and foremost, thank you very much. No longer are we in the world of government only and in industry. Hey, industry, fix that. What we're doing is partnering in all our meetings with industry in there, because the worst thing we can do is not show them our issues and them not understand and hear our problems directly. And when they do, they're on the meeting, we ask them, hey, what's the timeline to fix that? And they bring to bear their resources and their people to fix it. And I think it's a very healthy back and forth. The one thing I did ask was on contract, on time, on budget, are the things that we absolutely need. And there's, if you're a prime vendor, you have sub vendors that bring some of the parts and pieces to that. And some of them struggle depending on their size, their resiliency, and the market, and especially for people who can work on things. And so the more they work together on that to make that all seamless and at least identify the things that are going to be a struggle and then help and pitch in early is the key, I think. And I see that across the industry. It depends where you are. There's some that are struggling a little more than others, but they're all working very hard to get us exactly where we need to be. I mean, they're patriots and Americans. Yeah. They want us to have the best kit, and they want to resolve all our problems for us.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to start firing away from some of these audience questions. So awesome. If you have questions, go ahead and submit them. I've got a pile of them here, so I'm sure we won't get to all of them. But it's a sign of a great conversation. We got more questions than you have time to ask them all. Jason Sickles, Washington Times, threat status. How has the development of hypersonic weapons and swarming drones in China changed the strategy for aircraft carrier operations in the Pacific? We talked a little bit about just operating in the WES and, where some critics say, hey, is the carrier as effective as it used to be? And we had a good conversation about that. I know you have a strong opinion there.
Yeah, so I would just have confidence that the aircraft carrier can operate where and when needed. We fight all domain, and I won't go any further than that. But we look at all threats and we assess all threats. So I have confidence that we're assessing not only hypersonics and unmanned things, swarms, all of that, but assessing exactly where we need to go in order to operate in it. My 37 years, I've spent 35 years in a weapons engagement envelope, flying, sailing, the whole time. And there's not one of them that's been developed that we can't fly in, sail through, or fight in, because we figure out a way. We're Americans. We know how to do this with our allies and partners who are flying Joint Strike Fighter and a lot of other things that we have. We partner together and we're able to overcome whatever a potential adversary has for us. So I think the speed of that learning is the key to the future, because as you see tech going fast and faster, no matter what it is, then the speed of what you can do. And that's why I'm so excited about the administration and where we're going, SecNav's leadership, SecDef's leadership of where we're going, because I think that's where the whole big ship is turning, is towards speed for things that matter.
I got one from an aviation JO. He says, do you think within the next decade that the carrier will have more unmanned than manned aircraft, and if so, why? Must be an aviator, JO.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we already have MQ-4, if you know what that is. It's a very large aircraft that helps our P-8 community and is run by our P-8 community for intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance out there. It is a very long range, very long endurance asset, and very successfully being employed around the globe. On the aircraft carrier, I don't sense that we're going to have more unmanned, but I think we're going to have the right manned-unmanned levels. So we're going to start with MQ-25 and then unlock the possibilities. The big question as we fast follow with the United States Air Force on collaborative combat aircraft is what that turns out to be. So we're in the initial sort of stages of seeing what that tech brings, what the price point is, what it brings, what the man-unmanned teaming is. I don't think we'll have more, but we'll have a good blend.
Okay. One from Amanda Gray, Office of Representative Jen Kiggins, Virginia. The Navy's aging T-45 trainer continues to impact our ability to move student aviators through the pipeline. Can you provide an update on how these challenges are being addressed and what steps the Navy is taking to reduce bottlenecks?
Yep, so the same playbook we apply to everybody else, we applied to the T-45 to make sure we have enough of those to train our young cadre. We haven't missed any fleet replacement squadron seats, so we're getting them through. We're working them hard. So we do need more T-45s available, and we're working that across the board and getting through that. So the recovery is good, and we're there. We're also looking at the UJTS, the next training system, to down select that here in the near future of what the next trainer looks like. But maintaining that T-45 fleet and getting those young folks trained, and what I need is a competent aviator that's winged to come to my fleet replacement squadron and be ready to start doing high-end tactics, right? I need their basics to be so solid that they know how to fly, you know, do wingman stuff, and be in control of their aircraft and handle any emergency, any basic weapon system, that kind of stuff, and then come and be ready to learn. And so that's what I see coming to us, whether it's rotary wing, P-8s, fixed wing aviation, even our unmanned crowd that goes through for the MQ-4, same, and then in our jet pipeline.
I got one here from this guy named Pete Daly, retired naval officer.
You know Pete.
Former USNI CEO and publisher. The long-range air-to-air engagement in the recent conflict between Pakistan and India caught a lot of people's eyes. Can you share any updates on our capabilities, such as the Navy's Gunslinger air-to-air weapon system or other joint air-to-air development efforts with the U.S. Air Force?
So we have a lot of capability and capacity. And you've seen some of that rolled out. Everybody's seen the AIM-174 Bravo on the F-18s. That is a very long-range kill chain and that kind of stuff that's part of that fourth, fifth generation mix of aircraft with the E-2D controlling and the Growler that goes out there. So the learnings there and the capability and capacity that we have is exceptional. And that's why I have confidence that if we had to go worst case to war, we can win.
I got a bunch here. Carl Forsling, Airbus, U.S. Space and Defense. A lot of the focus on autonomy has centered on MQ-25 and TAC Air CCAs. Where do you see UAS supplementing or substituting the H-60 fleet, both on big decks and small, especially with the demise of Fire Scout?
Yeah, so future vertical lift is going to be a family of systems, basically. So you're going to have a manned portion of that, which looks like some form of rotary wing. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. There's the whole acquisition community is getting after that. And then there's going to be an unmanned piece of that. Exactly what that looks like, not sure. I've seen a lot of the industry proposals and vendors that are very exciting proposals. And then what works in that family of systems will be the key part for our cruisers, destroyers, and for the whole rotary wing fleet. But as you look at that family of systems, some of the attributes of the unmanned are pretty exciting. And then retaining that moral decision-making aviator, that free-thinking American we talked about earlier, I think is key to the other piece of that.
Yeah. One from Paul Ong, Sea Power Magazine. Do you believe that the Navy's smaller E-2D Hawkeye can substitute and replace the canceled Air Force's larger E-7 AWACS program? What are your thoughts on having the U.S. Navy fulfill the entire AWACS role? And do you feel that long-range... No, I'll just delete that last part.
Right. So I'll leave that to the decision makers in the United States Air Force of what the right thing is. Is the E-2D one of the most capable command and control platforms out there? Yes, it is. It has air refueling, so we can stay on station and go serious long ranges. And that team, very small team in the E-2D, is incredibly capable. You know, the young warfighters, I go flying with them every once in a while. Incredible platform, although it confuses me a little bit because you have to take your feet off the floor and put them actually on the rudders to fly that plane. F-18 that I fly, you don't really have to put your feet on the rudders until you land, so you use the nose wheel steering. But hugely capable, and the three folks in the back of that are incredible warfighters. And, you know, talk about folks that can think strategic, operational, and tactical all at the same time. I think of them as a large umbrella over the whole force, and command and control, and then give you the right call at the right time. And then I think about the trust. And I thought about this the other day when we were talking with Admiral Kaler about his confidence and things. And then he was talking about trust. And I thought the implicit trust I have in my E2D crews, if they say something, direct me, I do it. I don't even think. I don't pause. I don't go, is that the right decision? I do whatever they say whenever they say it. A, because they're always right. And they have that global SA, situational awareness that the E2D brings. And so it's kind of inherent, that trust piece. I hope they trust me equally. I'm sure they do.
I'm going to change subject here.
Sure.
Lucas Peterson, U.S. Department of State. As the Arctic becomes increasingly contested, how is naval aviation preparing for potential activities in the region?
So you've probably seen it, but we sent our aircraft carriers up in the Arctic. No problem operating up there. There's some, uniqueness to the Arctic to operate up there. But our team's ready and our kit's capable of operating around the globe, including the Arctic. The Arctic is important. I was at NORAD Northcom for 3 years, so I was on the Arctic Council, the military side of it. Very exciting to work with our allies and partners on the Arctic. No problem operating there, and vitally critical to the whole globe.
Christian Cabanas, Systems Planning and Analysis. How is the future of aviation sustainment, specifically intermediate maintenance, going to be impacted in a contested environment?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think additive manufacturing, 3D printing are a big piece of that, because I think as we go down that journey, you could additive manufacture, 3D print a lot of things forward at intermediate level maintenance. We have to give that intermediate level maintenance the ability to repair quickly and put back into the aircraft, so that when you're on a long logistics chain, you don't have to fly everything out and that kind of stuff. And we do that, and that's still work to come to really have that at scale. So I think that's part of the future for that. And I do see the intermediate level maintenance as a critical piece of this, because you have to be able to repair things on the fly while you're forward.
One from Jacob Wozniak, Overt Defense. Can you elaborate on how you think quantum computing will impact naval aviation in the future? And I wouldn't restrict it to quantum computing. I'd just say advanced technologies, AI.
Yep. So I will tell you, quantum is fascinating to me, along with a lot of other things that I don't quite understand. I mean, I've studied the qubits and the stuff, and then I kind of get back to the thermos principle. It just goes faster and it's better, right? It keeps things hot or cold. How we do that, how we incorporate that will be critical, I think, to the future. Currently, AI, artificial intelligence, getting all of our data into a database where I can use artificial intelligence. So I have a clever team at NavAir, and I've got one at my headquarters. There are a couple analytics groups, and they have done things that I didn't think were possible. They have data mined into places that I thought were stovepipe databases that I probably couldn't get all the data, and they pulled the right data out and then put it into an artificial intelligence environment where it can use the large language models and the other things in order to give us courses of action and the other things we need. So I'm pretty excited about that. It gives you, especially in the sustainment piece, it gives you the leading edge indicators of what's coming. So you can really get ahead of problems, maybe by years ahead of a problem that's coming, in any of your parts and sustainment piece of it. And I think it's far beyond that as we use artificial intelligence. I do think that moral decision makers need to make life and death decisions, not artificial intelligence. but artificial intelligence can provide you best courses of action and those kind of things.
Right. As an augmenting capability, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wish I knew the future of quantum and whether that was going to be scalable, portable, deployable, some of those kind of things. But I think it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think its power is going to change things, kind of like artificial intelligence has changed things. It's the next, I don't know if it's evolution or revolution. Anyway, it's coming.
One from.
I know a lot of power is required to do that.
Yeah.
And one thing our United States Navy has is power.
Curtis Morgan, veteran, former H-3 driver. What do you foresee as the future of Navy's search and rescue mission?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for your work in the H-3. I got one flight in the H-3. They didn't have to pick me up. I was just getting transported, thankfully. But an amazing asset. I think the future of that combat search and rescue is in the range aspects of it and how many people you can transport piece of it. So I think that's the future. I don't know exactly what that looks like. That's why the Future Vertical Lift Family of Systems study ongoing. So I think there's future to that. I do think there's still training to be had for my young sailors that do air crewmen, that go through survivor swimmer and are crazy enough to jump into very cold or, whatever water to get somebody like me and pluck them out. God bless those young kids because they're young sailors and they just have no fear. They'll just come down, any sea state, any condition, any weather, and they'll just jump in, go get you, and bring you back. And you just, when they come, you just comply with whatever they say. I've only done it in training, but they are amazing. Those young sailors earn their keep every day.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yep.
Had lots of questions on China. I'll try to kind of summarize. Steve Schinkel from Naval War College, what are your concerns that need to be addressed in the short term to preserve being able to deter China and, if needed, prevail in conflict?
Yeah, I think so. Since he's from the Navy War College, I think our wargaming capability and capacity growth is key to that. And that really gets to the fundamental learning. How fast we learn is the key to our future. So if we can learn quickly, no matter what comes out, then there's really no surprises because we can learn so fast, adjust on the fly, and then go. And then the better and better we get at wargaming, modeling, simulation, and all that kind of stuff, the better we're going to be. And thanks for what he does at the War College because that's one of our centers of excellence for that. We have a lot of them, but that's one of them.
All right. I got a bunch more piled up, but I think we're kind of running out of time. Do you want to close with anything? Is there anything that you thought I might ask that I didn't ask? Or do you have any final comments for the group?
I think, just as I think about United States Navy, again, I go back to America as a maritime nation. You've got to have a strong Navy. In fact, I think it's in the Constitution that says maintain a Navy. And I think they were pretty smart when they wrote the Constitution. The reason you have to maintain a Navy is because you are a maritime nation. The aircraft carrier is very symbolic of America, is very much the visible deterrent around the globe. Everybody knows when that aircraft carrier is near or even coming, what that means. Usually it means we have a bigger Air Force than wherever we are. And because the globe is made mostly of water, we can go anywhere we want. And the only permission we need is the President of the United States to do whatever we need to do. So the sovereignty of that airfield that is globally deployable, that's highly maneuverable anywhere, is the key to this thing. And I can move that carrier long distances quickly. And so that flexibility, adaptability, and resilience really sets us up for success into the future. I look at China, at their aspirations. They're trying to grow their carrier fleet quickly. Why? They understand the value of the aircraft carrier. Our aircraft carrier fleet is right-sized and ready for whatever comes in that future. And so I'm excited about 82 and 83, which is the follow-on to the ones we're building currently. And I'm excited how we're going forward with that. And because that, once we get those, then we'll have the majority forward class carriers in the fleet with that capability and capacity we talked about earlier. So really excited for the future. Most excited about the young folks who are coming in. I get asked a lot about, are the young folks different now? Do they have different values? Do they have different? No, there's no different values. They're Americans. They love their nation. They want us to be effective and efficient at training them. They want us to give them the tool set. They want us to free up their time to do the right things, then get out of their way and let them do it. And they do magical things once you do that. And then you balance their work life best you can. You explain to them when we're deploying a lot, why we're deploying, and they understand it. There's no fundamental difference. They are dedicated, and boy, they work hard. Yeah. And I do want to thank our sailors. My son was a sailor for 4 years. He's now doing his GI Bill, which is awesome. My other son's a Marine Corps, just made captain. So I called him the other day. I said, congratulations, Captain. He goes, I'm a first lieutenant. So I appreciate the humbleness. So really excited for the future and confident in where we're going. And confident that our Navy, Secretary of the Navy, the new Chief of Naval Operations, I'm very excited about Admiral Caudle taking over. If you listen carefully to his testimony, I don't think I've ever heard a better explanation or testimony on how you balance the things you're buying and the cool kit and capability with the sustainment required for those things. He really laid that out in a way that I understood, and I hope the rest of the nation understands, because he's the right leader at the right time for that job, and had, that testimony was very exciting to me.
Yeah, great.
And I don't say that very often, because, a lot of testimonies. Okay. But that one was really well done.
Well, Admiral, I want to thank you for your time. It's obviously that you are confident in your leadership of the Air Force and the Naval Air Force, not the other Air Force.
Confident in them too.
But it's great to have you in that leadership role, and I know you're doing great things, and I know that the Navy appreciates your service, so thank you for your service and all you do. Thanks for being here with us today. I also want to thank, again, CSIS for being a great partner, and I want to thank HII for your sponsorship. How about a nice round of applause for Admiral Cheever? That's a wrap.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks.